Hello, friends and listeners, party people. Welcome back to another episode of Party XP. I'm your host, Lakan, and joining me is Jeff. Say hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
How are you doing, my good friend?
I'm in pain.
Yeah?
I turned, 34, and immediately started falling apart.
Oh, so. Yeah, then another post-30 debuff basically got tacked onto you.
Exactly. Yeah, now it's just like my ankle just started hurting out of nowhere, so like I've been trying to figure that out. But the good news is that everybody's back at school now. Not to date this episode, but everybody's back at school, so a lot less running around, a lot less getting up and down, a lot more sitting around. So that's good.
Which also can be kind of detrimental when you think about it. You probably want to move on a little bit more, I guess.
Right. It depends on what this is. I don't really know what it is.
True.
We have to figure that out. But yeah, no, of course. At the end, at the very least, right, I'll have the opportunity to do whatever I need to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's good.
See if you need to get like PT or something started or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. What about you?
Pretty good, man. It's been a pretty busy weekend, but I didn't get to do everything that I wanted, with the long weekend, but I got a good amount done. Mm-hmm. I finished Yakuza 0 over the weekend. So that was fun. 40-hour game. I beat it in like 42 hours. Just the main story, right? I did a little bit of the side quest stuff, but like percentage-wise, it said like 42 or it said like 28% of the game I actually did. But, to be fair, that game's also like a lot of side story, a lot of like mini games. So I'm like, I'm fine with a quarter of the actual everything, me exploring it, because again, I got the main story, and I got a good amount of like the side story stuff for Majima and for Kiryu. So I started Kiwami, the remake of Yakuza 1, a day after. So like, was that on Saturday?
Right.
And yeah, and like that one's considerably shorter. I think it's about half the time. So that's cool. I play these games mostly in like 1 hour chunks at lunch. And then on the weekends, I can dip like 2-3 hours in, if I've got the free time, if I'm not busy or whatever. So, yeah, so I've been doing that. And also I've been prepping for the Serbia trip, coming up soon. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Funny, we've been talking about this for a couple of years now, and now all of a sudden it's finally here, right?
Yeah. It's going to be a good time. Not going to lie. First time international traveling solo. So I'm a little, not like nervous, but you know what I mean? It's just like, I'm kind of always like oh shit, did I forget something kind of guy, you know what I mean? Because even like trips to like Florida, like I forgot things, like I forgot my toothbrush and a towel one time, like little things, right? So that's not too bad, but I'm like I'll pack my bag like a week before, empty it out, you know what I mean? Like 2 days before the trip, and repack everything and just double triple check everything now.
Right. And not having someone to bounce things off of is always tough, right? Like,
yeah.
Just to have somebody to bounce things off of when you're traveling is so helpful.
Yeah.
But I get it.
So, like solo trip, it's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to it. Looking to seeing everybody over there and kind of exploring something a little bit different, especially because I don't think aside from Tim, anyone else has been to Serbia. So this will be a cool time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So hope you guys have a good time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll take a lot of pictures. Unfortunately you couldn't come along, busy, but maybe next time we all go over there.
Yeah, maybe when there's, less of a child that needs not as much assistance, but still needs,
Yeah.
is still a handful for one parent,
Yeah, absolutely.
It can be tough.
Yeah, I get it. When little man's a little bit older, we absolutely bring him. All the uncles and aunties will be all together hanging out.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. This episode's going to be a little bit different. We're going to have a little bit more of a relaxed, like, conversation episode. We like to intersperse these between the dedicated gaming topic episodes. Little more relaxed for me and Jeff. Also, we could kind of just shoot the shit and kind of bounce off each other a little bit more, So this episode, I wanted to talk about a very particular topic, and I was kind of thinking about it over the last couple weeks, couple months kind of thing, because I've been kind of bouncing off of this topic. So this episode, I want to talk about difficulty in multiplayer video games. So we've talked about our gaming history before. I'm really big on shooters. I, dipped my toe back into fighting games, pretty, not like seriously, but like more intensely the last couple of years. Obviously, you're a big fighting game guy. I don't know if you're, I know that you're not super big on shooters, like competitive shooters.
Not anymore. I was. Yeah. I used to play them all the time, but I think it's something that we'll touch on. But like the team aspect versus the solo aspect, is something that really kind of drove me away from the from the team games.
I get it. Yeah, absolutely. And then even like I'll dip a little bit back into a couple years ago when I was playing MOBAs and also even like RTS games. I kind of want to dip into those because I know you and me have a history with RTS games, different series, but we both did play RTS games.
Yes.
So yeah, like I guess I guess I'll bring up my first topic. I guess first, my 1st game or game type that I want to bring up first, and then you can do one after me.
Sure.
And you know, just if you got something, if you have any sort of experience that's that can be pertinent to it, just go ahead and hop in whenever you want. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing I want to talk about, and this is in no particular order. This kind of just like what kind of came into mind for me. I think at the time when I was thinking about this topic, I was really bouncing off of this game because there has been a couple updates that I was not kind of really down with, and playing it had kind of become a little bit annoying because I'm just not good enough to carry in this game. But it's a game that I still enjoy. But I've kind of been bouncing off it recently. I've kind of dipped my toe back in over the last like 2-3 weeks when I'm not playing Yakuza. Yakuza is a good game, man. It took over my life for a little bit.
I know it is.
So the first game I want to talk about is Apex Legends.
Okay.
So I'm a big Titanfall guy. Kind of reason why like I still love Apex Legends even after all the bullshittery that kind of goes on, right? It's kind of a trimmed down Titanfall in most of its aspect, right? Because it is from Respawn, so a lot of the mobility is there, but also a lot of it has been kind of removed. And in a game like Apex Legends, where it is a battle royale, it's a first-person shooter, right? It's kind of a hero shooter, right? Which you have experience with that too, because you played like Overwatch and stuff, right?
I played Overwatch for a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
You can tell me basically anything about Apex Legends and I'll believe you.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could tell me like Kermit the Frog's in the game, I'd believe you.
Got it. Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
Got it. Okay. So this is the first one would be mostly me then, kind of just giving like, and hear me out. I'm not like a pro at any of these games. I hover near like high silver to mid gold for most of the competitive games that I play. Mm-hmm. I'm not garbage, but I'm not amazing. I'm kind of right in the middle of the pack. I know how to climb out of like lower divisions, and that's kind of really about it. I know how to be like decent at the game, right? So Apex, again, very similar to Titanfall in a lot of aspects. Mobility and aim are the two most important things in this game, in my opinion, for early on. Because, again, BR, first-person shooter, obviously aim matters a lot. And for the most part, you can kind of just raw aim your way through gold. Like not really knowing a whole lot about like the individual legends, their basic abilities and stuff, right? And how to make a basic team comp, which is just, really simple utility use. The simpler, the better, right? Keep the game simple for yourself and just get really good at aiming. That'll carry you for the most part. And luckily aim transfers to most other FPS games, right? Or third-person games too, for that matter. In terms of like ranking, they do a lot of like weird balance stuff where they're trying to nerf like early game aggression. So if you're just like a pub stomper, you know what I mean? Like just like I just drop in, I hot drop, I kill like 20 people and I die, and then I just get a fuck ton of points off of that. You know what I mean? So they've been trying to nerf that early on in the season, especially like when the season resets, and a lot of you're matching up with like a lot of like high level players in the early season because everyone's back to zero basically. They tried to like nerf that, but there's with mixed results as of the last couple seasons. Nice thing about Apex as well is hip fire is really good in this game versus like a COD or like a Battlefield, without attachments and stuff like that, like the laser sights or whatever. Because again, the game is so fast, you want to be able to track ADSing and hip firing. It helps for both because obviously it brings your FOV out a little bit more, right?
What does ADS stand for?
Aiming down sights. So when you're aiming down sights, obviously you move a lot slower. Your bullets go specifically where the red dot goes, right, or the sight goes. But with hip fire, the spread will be a little bit more, but you can swing fast. You can swing around faster. You'll cover more area. Like you can turn faster. You can move faster. So you don't get a movement speed penalty when you're hip firing. You can still do all the crazy, jumping, sliding, jump canceling, it's like the bunny hopping, all that stuff while you're hip firing as well in the ADSing. If you're solo queuing, use abilities with legends with like high utility, or selfish use is perfectly fine too, honestly. But like Bangalore smokes, obscuring vision's a big thing, obviously in a shooter, right? Lifeline is she can pick up down teammates just by running to them and pressing E or F, whatever your use button is, and just get back into the fight. Just keep walking, running by, right? Gibby drops a big old shield, like a bubble shield, like in Halo Reach. Simple, right? Simple utility is really good. You kind of have to be a little bit like you have to kind of find that balance between being like a lone wolf and a team player in the lower ranks, because you kind of have to be a hero because placement matters more than kills early on. So rat, if you need to, right? Ratting is just like hiding and just making sure your team gets a high placement out of all the teams that have been on the stack, essentially, or in that lobby. The higher your team places, the more points you get. But of course, you also need points to supplement that. Points, kills, and assists. And one of the things I wanted to focus on in terms of this game is because the fact that there's a lot of difficult mechanical skills to learn about this game, right? While aim does transfer over, luckily, from shooter to shooter, you do have to worry a little bit about character and meta and other stuff like that, right? Because this is technically partly hero shooter. The biggest thing for this one is the mechanical skill. There's a very specific set of mechanical skills that go along with this game in terms of like the movement, some of the exploits on how to tap strafe and stuff like that. Because there's a very specific set of like learning how to shoot and move and slide in this game that doesn't exist basically in any other online shooter at the moment. And last thing I've got for this one is just learn one legend in every role. There's a bunch of free characters now that basically cover all the major roles anyway. Learn like a basic team comp, really simple utility, just anything that's really easy to use, really simple to understand. And just again get really good at aiming. That's a really big thing in this game specifically, because you can kind of carry yourself out of the lower ranks with just raw aim.
I think that's a big thing. What you said, learn in any sort of class-based game, learn a character for each role is like so important in team-based games.
Yeah.
Like I made a living just playing support characters, right? Because nobody wants to play support. Everybody wants to play attack. Everybody wants to damage. But, you need support sometimes. You need to heal. You need tanks. You need initiators, right? Doesn't always, you can't make a team of 5 damage dealers. So especially if you're really interested in leveling up, playing support or playing the characters that people don't want to play is a super easy way to do it.
So I would just recommend, hey man, just get on a support character like Lifeline or Gibby. Just throw out a shield, throw out a heal for us. You're useful. You know what I mean? Like basically at all points of the game that way. Even if he's not pumping out the same amount of damage we are, you're still useful, right?
But that's not the role, right? The role isn't to be a damage dealer. The role is to set up support and all that, right?
Yeah, so it kind of lines up a little bit with like an FPS that we both played was Destiny, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of lines up that way where like, when I was playing Shield Titan, right? The ulti that I was using was the one that I have to like stand there and hold the shield.
Right.
It's not great for me. It's not fun for me, right? But I'm amping damage way more than if I was just shooting along with you guys anyway. So I have to swallow my pride. Just I know what my job is. I'm standing here eating damage. I'm taking damage from a front, but I'm also amplifying our damage out. Just swallow your pride. Be part of a team. Work with each other.
The goal is to clear the encounter. The goal isn't to top, especially in a game like that where you don't have DPS charts. Like the goal is to clear the encounter. The goal isn't to be top DPS because you're not playing DPS. You're playing a support character.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think gets lost a lot. It's like you want to have a tangible impact, but because the only trackable way to show your impact is via numbers.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's difficult for people playing support classes in any game to gauge their importance, but I think that you can tell when you get a good support, and that's by winning fights, clearing encounters, whatever kind of game you're playing. That's the makings of a good support class are success rate, really.
Yeah. And, and again, it is a BR at the end of the day, right? Obviously kills lead to the win, right? Assists are important too. If you can put down a little bit of damage, but you can also make sure that we stay alive, that's more important. That's way more important. Especially if you're playing with people who are I acknowledge when I play with friends who are better than me. My job is just to stay alive and be a body. You know what I mean? If I can help in 1 or 2 gunfights, I'm good. I've done my job. Even if I'm gonna be lower in terms of like damage output, kills, assists, or whatever. As long as I'm not a burden to the team, we're good. We got a solid chance going in.
exactly. That's the big thing. You just don't want to be a burden. And unfortunately, in team games, quite a bit, there are people that are burdens.
Oh
Right?
yeah,
There are people
absolutely.
that are just not good. And to me, that was the biggest frustrating part about team games, right? Was I did my job, I'm good at what I'm doing, but we still lost because somebody else shit the bed.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
And that's what really took me away from team games for basically forever. I don't remember the last time I played a team. Well, besides like Exoprimal, but that wasn't really like a game that I took super seriously. But like, I can't remember the last time I took a team-based game seriously.
No, I get that. I get that. If it's not your particular game type or whatever, you know, why put yourself through the suffering of playing it if you're not enjoying it anyway?
But I did. And that's the most difficult thing is I liked playing, like, you know, I'm sure we're going to talk about League of Legends and MOBAs because we played them. But like for me, I love those games, but I don't love doing my part, doing my research, doing everything that I have to do, and then having somebody else just kind of flop in and completely shit the bed, feed, and lose the game for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a bad, like, no one likes losing, right? But you know,
I really don't like losing.
yeah, I've kind of gotten over it, especially because I like started grinding out a lot of those games, right? Like Apex and Rainbow Six Siege and League. It's just like it's whatever. It's part of the experience. You know what I mean? So I have to kind of accept it. There's gonna be shitters no matter what anyway. Best I can do is just do my best and see if I can play through somebody dragging the team down, which, you know, I've done plenty of times. It happens. You know, your win condition changes all the time, especially in a lot of these like team games. So it's just trying to figure out who can you play around, kind of thing. You know what I mean? You know, it works. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. It really just roll the dice. What can you do? But yeah, so that's my first thing I want to talk about. Again, like I'm not trying to get too in depth with a lot of these. It's more just like, you know, these are kind of like the things that I think of as like what makes them difficult, right? You know, for Apex, again, there's a decent amount of legends now.
Right. So matchup knowledge, knowing what these characters all do.
But at the end of the day, it's about shooting guns better than the other enemy. So like that's the nice thing, right? It has hero shooter qualities, but at the end of the day, if you're a better shot than the opponent, you'll win these most of the time. You'll be fine. Yeah. So what about you?
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. What about you? What's the first thing you want to talk about here?
So I guess like it just starts for me with like how I handle fighting games and how I approached fighting games, especially kind of going to that point where I took that next step. And we've talked about this a lot, right? So for me, obviously fighting games were super important to me growing up, right? But growing up, I was like good enough to be the best in the friend group, be one of the best, I should say, in the friend group. I was good enough to win some games against other people, but I was still kind of like struggling. I didn't understand. I was kind of capped, right? I kind of plateaued my skill at a certain point, right? So eventually it got to the point where Street Fighter 4 had come out, right? And I had been playing other games, and a lot of it too was like the games that we would play, I would just play more, which should have keyed me off to what I needed to do, but it wasn't the whole equation, right?
Yeah.
So when Street Fighter 4 came out, you know, I kind of had like this come to Jesus moment where like it's like I'm still struggling. I'm still making certain mistakes. I'm not good enough, right? So I just started playing nonstop, right? And that's one half of the equation. If you want to get better at something, you have to do it more. You have to practice. And the second part of that equation isn't just playing the game against people you know, right? And people at a certain skill level. Eventually what you have to do is you have to set out and find people that are better than you. You have to find people that play differently than you. You have to find people that maybe are playing a play style that is and the antithesis of yours. And you just have to kind of learn how to, you know, approach them differently, right? It's not just how much you're playing, it's who you're playing against. And if you're playing against strong opponents, you're going to get stronger.
Yeah.
If you're playing against weak opponents, you'll never get stronger. You're just going to beat up on the weak opponents, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the ebb and flow of it, is like you can't just play the game more. The other thing that I did a lot that I used to do just kind of for fun, but I never, because I really enjoy this, is training mode. Just labbing, just practicing. But practicing, for Street Fighter 4, it was the FADCs, right? The focus, attack, dash, cancels, where as a Ryu player, you could Shoryuken, you could input the focus attack command, you dash forward to cancel the Shoryuken animation, and then you could follow up with supers, right? With your Ultra, I mean, right? So your big Hadouken. So working on execution was something that I had really never done before, but I ended up doing it because I needed to get better. So you throw in basically a few months of that, and now like it's not even really like close.
Yeah, it's no longer the same game at that point.
Well, right. So number one, I'm better now, and I'm playing like pro players, right?
Yeah.
At this point, people who dedicate their life to this. So I'm in that sort of realm. So like in Street Fighter 6, as of this recording, I'm in Diamond 3. So it's Diamond 4, Diamond 5, and Master. So I'm almost maxed out, right?
Yeah.
In that game. Same thing with other fighting games. Street Fighter Cross Tekken was kind of like the closest I ever was to like the big rank until Street Fighter 6 came out. I was like a B+, I think, in Street Fighter Cross Tekken, which is like B+, A+, and then like the Master equivalent rank, right?
Yeah.
So, but like, not everybody has that dedication, right? Not everybody wants to go through all that, but that is unfortunately, especially for fighting games, but really every competitive game. And I think that's what companies are failing and trying to do, and nobody can really figure out, well, why is this not working? Because no matter how much you simplify a game, you still need to put the time and effort in, and you still need to have some level of skill, right?
Yeah.
At these games to succeed. And eventually, even like the high level players are still going to be the high level players, no matter how many comeback mechanics you give players, no matter how simple you make things, no matter how many modern controls you implement and all of that. Skill is still skill.
Yeah.
And you're just giving more skilled players different tools to beat less skilled players. And the sooner you realize that, and the sooner you realize that you're just not good enough and you need to do something, needs to change, and you need to get better, you're going to say the same. You'll never get better without that mindset, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what like triggered for me in playing, single. And the big thing for me too was like fighting games. It's you and your one opponent. That's it. There's no teammates, right? So when you win because of you. When you lose because of you, right? So that was kind of what was more enticing to me, because again, like we played MOBAs, we played other team games, right? Shooters and the like. And what really drove me up the wall was doing my part when I wasn't fucking around in Halo, right? And just being a dick. What really like drew me to fighting games, other than just the fact that they were in my life for so long, right? Was that it was just like, hey, it's on me. I don't have to worry about a teammate, right? So that was what was appealing to me. And so that's kind of where I'm at with fighting games. And having that mindset kind of changed me in every other game, right? So now if I'm going to play a game, I'm going to follow what the high level players do, because I want to, that's kind of just the mindset that I have. Like I'm going to pick the best mods, right? In Destiny, I'm going to pick the best build in League or whatever other kind of game. I'm going to optimize my deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! And right. So that's just the mindset switch that I have. But to me, playing at that level is fun. It's fun to play at the high level. It's fun to challenge yourself, and it's fun to do, to do flashy combos, let's say, right? To try to maximize your damage, right? To me, that's the fun of it. It's fun playing at a high level for me. It might not be fun for everybody. You might call it sweaty. You might call it try hard. And that's fine. That's your opinion. That's what you think of people that want to play this stuff at a high level. And that's fine. But don't blame me for wanting to play it at a high level and like ruining your fun, you shouldn't even be playing in the same area. Not to like sound like classist like that, but it's kind of the truth. Like eventually, like you're gonna just have to get better, and I'm not gonna start. I'm not gonna take it easy on people. I'm gonna come for your throat. If you're trying to take this serious, if you're gonna take it as seriously as I'm taking it, I'm coming for your throat, man. Like, it's just kind of like the way that I come about it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I get it. That's your outlook on games and competing in general, right? I mean, like for me, I have a little bit of that, right, in terms of like certain games that I really click with. Some things I just know mechanically I'm not gonna be there,
Right.
I bounce around games a lot. Certain things transfer, certain things don't. Especially for like, again, most of the games that I played, especially the last couple of years have been shooters, right? Certain things transfer. Like raw aim base mechanics are always going to be there, right? But really refining that stuff is going to be different from game to game. So like I can't find myself getting really good at one game versus another when the mechanics are slightly different, right? And the even though at its core it's about pointing your reticle at somebody and making sure your shots hit, then theirs don't, right? Even like fighting games, like I'm absolutely in the same kind of like. I understand where you're coming from because I came from a world of competition, right? Wrestling, martial arts, music. That's also pretty competitive. I think like fighting games has a lot of these same ideals in terms of like how to practice. You know what I mean? It's a lot of like, really get down to the nitty gritty of it, sit down, just, suffer through the boring stuff so you can actually enjoy yourself at a high level.
Yeah, there are a lot of transferable skills, right? You have neutral translates, right? Playing footsies translates, timing, composure. A lot of the intangibles translate very well, right? Understanding how to use mechanics, like comparing mechanics, right, in certain games. So like the big thing was like in Street Fighter 6 versus Street Fighter 4, right? You have like the focus attack and then you have the drive impact, right? Similar kinds of things. They have super armor, but not like one to one, but like things you understanding how game mechanics work and influence the match, right? All of that stuff's transferable. So like your point about shooters having transferable skills are the same for fighting games, right? So it's a good point.
So like I've got a couple points here. I'm sure you can expand on a couple of these. These are the kind of things that because like again I got into 2D fighters relatively late, like treating them quote unquote seriously, right? Seriously for me, right? Because we know that we have there's a difference between yours and my skill level. Again, I said before, like I probably sit around gold, right? I've beaten a couple like what is it, plat after that? Probably.
Yeah, platinum's after that. Yeah,
I've beaten a couple plats. Like I'm not great, I'm not fantastic at the game. I'm decent. You know what I mean? I'm perfectly fine with being decent because for the most part I'm just having fun. And it's like, also if I get decent enough, I'm happy enough the fact that I can actually handle my own, right? Yeah, one of the points you mentioned before, labbing. Like spend time learning the game. That is a big point in fighting games, and specifically in like learning your character, right? Your main. You want to learn your character so well, the ins and outs of them, and at the base level, you just know, okay, I'm allowed to do this, and I will get punished if I do this. You know what I mean? Like, I just keep it really simple. If you're just starting to get into fighting games, I think it's very good to just learn what is safe for you to do, what is unsafe for you to do, what is and like not even just your character, right? Like, know that like, oh, if I can't do DPs, a crouching heavy for Ryu is also works as an anti-air, right? Like, okay,
right, in certain situations.
Yeah, simplify it down as much as you possibly can. Get like really nitpick and try to get good at these small things, and then do the harder version of it if you possibly can once you get decent to a point where you're comfortable to do so, right?
And that's kind of the other thing too. Like, training mode isn't just practicing combos, right? It's also you can use it as an opportunity to practice against characters. So, like for
situations.
Instance, Right, exactly. And I think a lot of the modern fighting games have really good training mode implementations that can set up scenarios for you that you might be having trouble with, right? So Street Fighter 6 has a whole bunch. They have like the parrying tutorial, they have like an anti-air tutorial. I know Guilty Gear has some stuff like this, and the Arxis fighters have a lot of like the training sort of checklist that you go down, and you learn all the mechanics, and you learn how to do like, here's how you do an air combo, right?
Yeah, Under Night is Under Night's like tutorial system and training system is insanely fleshed out. It's wild. Like, and that's kind of like my first experience of like, oh, I can do anything in here. I can get my opponent to jump on me after like getting a hard knockdown. You know what I mean? It's
right.
Like, so I can like put myself in really rough scenarios or situations, and I can learn how to get out of them.
So a prime example, right? So like I was having trouble with Cammy doing certain moves, right? So I sat in training mode. I set the Cammy to just do, I think it was like crouching heavy punch, right? And it's like, what can I do to beat crouching heavy punch? What move beats crouching heavy punch? I just sat there for like 25, 30 minutes with this scenario trying to beat this one move, right? So there's situations like that. You know, training mode is your friend. A lot of older games had online training modes where you could sit there with somebody that you would trust, and then you could just literally train online with them, which was really cool. I don't think it's a feature in most modern fighting games, unfortunately, but it is what it is, right?
But the thing is, again, like, it's so customizable now. You can tell the CPU to do a very specific string of actions now, and put and you're doing it yourself. You're forcing yourself into specific situations at that point.
Right. So yeah, unfortunately, like everything else in life, whether it's a musical instrument, whether it's, what else do you gymnastics or any other sort of athletic endeavor, working out, you just have cooking, you just have to practice. You have to put the time in to do it, and if you don't want to, that's fine. But then don't get mad that you're not getting better.
I'll go through my points then. I think you could probably expand on these better than I can.
Right.
So yeah, that was my second point there. Learn combos. What is your bread and butter? And find an extended, simple, easy, like a simple extended combo, right? Like start simple, expand it more, and find out what is safe and unsafe. I think that's pretty safe to throw out there, even for like a beginner player. Just like learn what is like your 2-3 hit thing. Like, I can do this every time. I can get this under my fingers, and I can use this in a pretty wide array of situations.
Yeah, learning your bread and butters is important, and then understand that sometimes less is more, right?
Yeah. Going
for the big combo before you've mastered it can be more disadvantageous than just going for what you can do and then setting yourself up safely for the next combo, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. I mean, obviously, if you really want to go to the next level, you should work on the combo that you need to.
Yes.
But like, you should work on the combo that's gonna do more damage. But if you're not confident, then just, again, less is more.
Yeah, nothing wrong
in most cases.
Nothing wrong with a safer option.
Right.
Next point that I got here. Learn mechanics and terminology, like the basic concepts we were talking about before.
Right. So you have like neutral, where, especially at this is the phase of the game at match start, before somebody gets like a knockdown, where your opponent is literally knocked down, and depending on the game that you're playing, certain different things can happen, right? You can have you can roll, like a lot of 3D fighters have the roll mechanic. Tekken has it, where you can roll to gain a different position. I know Street Fighter and the Arxis games have like the quick stand or like the back roll. So learning how to interact with people that are knocked down and perform different actions, what's safe and what's not. Yeah. Then you have like okizeme, which is a Japanese term that basically translates to mind games, kind of, where, okay, so you knock somebody down, what are you going to do next, right? So are you going to hit maybe with an overhead? Are you going to throw out a limb? Are you going to throw? Are you going to, I don't know, whatever. If you have like an install, like are you going to power up? So there's tons of different things that go into every fighting game interaction, and that's kind of one of the main concepts of it, but they call it Oki, right?
Yeah. And like the terms that I put in like parentheses after the whole basic concepts thing is like footsies, right? Combos, the whole rock
Right,
paper scissors
understanding
idea.
punishing moves that footsies basically is like throwing out limbs and being able to understand when your opponent has thrown out a move that you can then punish, which means a move that you can react to and gain advantage off of, whether that's like even if it's like a low kick that does like 80 damage, that's still something, right? Ideally you would want to then turn that into like at least like a combo into a special move, but in certain cases where you can't, just being able to check the opponent, right?
Yeah, and tack on that little bit of damage is still like it adds up over time.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like the other term, like pressure. Pressure is kind of such a wide concept in general, right? But like the threat of like the idea of like I'll use like I guess for me it's like grapplers or pseudo grapplers for my characters, right? I played like
Right.
Abel, I played Marisa, right? I learned a little bit E Honda, right? So it's like the threat of me just advancing towards you is already like, okay, that's me exerting pressure because the fact that I'm now intruding into your space, right? Same with like when I do wrestling or when I do jujitsu. Like, okay, like I am clearly setting up for something. You may not know exactly what it is yet, but once I've kind of, but like that fear that you can kind of instill is like, okay, this is like something that I have to worry about now, right? I'm starting to push and like a mind game, mental pressure and physical pressure to try to take advantage of your mistakes.
Right. And people don't realize how big of a role momentum plays in fighting games, right? So having that pressure, especially when you're playing a more offensively focused character, right? Pressure is everything, and having that momentum is everything. So like, but also on the flip side, knowing how to kind of slow the game down and switch the pendulum back to your side is also very important. So
Very big deal.
having that mental composure to be like, and I know a lot of games, burst is a really big tool to kind of switch the momentum back to neutral, right? Street Fighter has it. Street Fighter 6 has it with the their burst, like the get off me kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So knowing what tools you have and knowing when to properly use them, because in a lot of those games, burst and moves like that can be punished, right? If you bait a burst, you can get a big punish, or at the very least, you can keep the momentum sort of more tangentially on your side versus having it swing the true neutral. So it's something to think about, right? When you're applying that pressure or when you're being pressured.
Yeah. And the last two things, I mentioned one before, the rock, paper, scissors. That is a very, like, thing that I understood the basic concept of. But it's basically, like, again, what beats what, you know what I mean? Like, if I throw out an attack, like, what is it? Like, because, like, throws, attacks, and specials, right? I guess that's kind of like the basics for it. Like, what beats what kind of thing in most scenarios type of thing. Again, pretty wide concept. I'm not going to do a good job explaining this, but I had to watch, like, a lot of YouTube videos to understand what exactly the rock, paper, scissors game was, essentially. And then taking turns. I had no idea what that meant. Like, because, like, again, a lot of the games that I played are a little more frantic. So it feels like you're always taking a turn no matter what, right? Like, Smash to me, because I'm Unga Bunga, is hold the left stick at an enemy and press buttons towards them at all times.
Right.
And then I play Under Night or Melty Blood, really fast paced anime fighters, and yes, they are when you boil it down, it does kind of, it still has obviously the same concepts, but because those games are so fast, to me, especially for like a not as seasoned fighting game player, it feels like I can always be aggressive, which is, again, not always good, but it's like I had to understand what exactly was my turn. What is me throwing out something, starting a string of combos if they're blocking everything? Okay, well, that is clearly my turn, right? So now if I end my combo and I put myself into a semi-safe state, I can block and wait for their response, essentially. That is like a very simple way for me to explain taking turns from a guy who was a relatively casual fighting game player.
Right. So yeah, like the concept of taking turns is kind of like I don't think of it as like a legacy term. I think it's kind of like a new term, but it is something that's always been involved in fighting games. It gets to a point eventually, especially when you're on the attack, where if your opponent's blocking and they're teching your throws, I guess, right? It gets to a point where you can't safely do things anymore, right? So then it's up to them to kind of take their turn, for the lack of a better phrase,
their
right?
offensive turn, essentially, after they've stopped your offensive turn.
Right. And now it's up to you to kind of either play defense or figure out how to get the ball back, for the lack of a better term, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that is something, yeah. Like, but it is important to kind of know when, hey, I've maxed out what I can do from this area. It's time to either keep myself in a good position or just know that I have reversal options or whatever.
Yeah, which are going to be riskier, obviously, when it's their turn to interrupt their turn.
Right.
But yeah, again, a wider concept that I only started really understanding like last year. You mentioned it before. Grind. Nothing you can do, but get reps in and get good.
Especially fighting games.
Yeah.
And
again,
the big thing,
any game you want to play, you want to be decent at or good at, you have to spend time and play it. That's kind of, it's kind of like at the core of a lot of things in general.
Yeah, man. It's unavoidable, right? Unless you are some prodigy virtuoso that can play for like an hour a week and then go out and dominate, like, even then it's going to be hard because everybody else, especially at the highest of high levels, are grinding all day, every day, right? So but like I said too, just playing randoms all day can be helpful, but it's not everything. The big thing that you need to do, join, groups, join Reddits, Discords, join online communities, talk to people, especially like join communities of your character, right? So like obviously for me, for Ryu, like I'm in Ryu groups, I read Ryu posts, right? I watch Ryu videos, I practice, right? And I'm tuned into people that play my character, right? So that's the other important thing, because other people are coming from all different walks of life. They're coming from all different kinds of games. They may know something that you don't. So just kind of being in your bubble, playing randoms, playing your friends, it's only going to get you so far, especially when you want to leave that bubble. It's easier to leave the bubble early and start absorbing knowledge from other people and then kind of going back to where you were than it is to kind of max out your skills in that bubble and then go somewhere and get stomped, because then you're going to feel bad about yourself. You're going to be like, oh my God, I put in all this practice and I'm ass, but you're not. Well, I mean, maybe you are, but but there's a way around that. And the way around that is to literally, so it's kind of like easier for me because that's Ryu's like MO, right? Is to just like travel and fight strong people. It's like also Goku's MO, right? So like I just kind of embrace that, and it's just like go fight people and don't get too upset when you lose, because it's all in the name of getting better, right?
Yeah, every loss is a learning experience. That's
right.
Like you kind of have to like accept that like losing, like it sucks, but you know, growth, it comes from that.
The other big thing to understand is when you're on tilt, which is like in pinball, right? When you tilt the pinball machine, it is unplayable. It's not working. It's kind of like a fighting game term for that same thing. Like you're beyond flustered, you're beyond frustrated, nothing's working. Having the knowledge to be like, okay, I'm done. Right?
Yeah,
I'm done playing.
Be aware when it happens to you, and do not be afraid to step away from it, especially when you're already in a bad state.
Because you know how it is. You always want to end your, if you're playing ranked, you always want to end on a win. You're trying to win back points because you want to rank up. It's tough. And I know it. I've been there recently. I still get there, right? You think you put in the time, but it's just you're playing bad matchups. You're not playing the way that you were playing when there were no stakes attached, right? Your precious online points. It's tough. It is tough, and it happens to everybody. Everybody gets mad at the game that they're playing, especially when you put a lot of time and effort into it and you're not immediately seeing results. What I will tell you is that oftentimes when you come back, whether it's later that day, whether it's the next day, 2 days later, it'll click. It happens to me all the time. Like the day after I tilt, I'm on tilt, I tilt out, I crash out, whatever you want to call it. I usually play really, really well. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, it's just like you have that clear mind when you sit back down and you start playing again, and it ends up being a pretty productive session, right?
Yeah.
But that is kind of a big thing, is to understand when you're on tilt, to understand when, like, okay, my shit's just not happening today, and to be able to switch to something else. And taking regular breaks, unless this is like your job, taking regular breaks from games is really good. Like, yes. I haven't played Street Fighter in like, shit, man, months, weeks, maybe months at this point. But I'm going to go back and I'm going to have another really fresh perspective on this. And I think I'm really going to enjoy playing this game again. So it is healthy to take breaks from the games that you're playing super competitively and you're putting a lot of time and effort into, just to reignite that fire certain times. At least that works for me. I don't know, it might not work for everybody, but I know it definitely works for me. And if you're struggling, if you're going through situations where, you know, you're really putting a lot of time and effort into this game, but you're not feeling the results, it might be time to just take a step back a little bit and come back with a fresh perspective. Play something else. Play a single player game. Play a I don't know, whatever else. Play a different fighting game. Play a shooting game. Play something that makes you feel good. So like for me, it was always World of Warcraft, it was always Destiny, and it was Exoprimal, right? Were those games that I would go to and just chill, right? Mm-hmm. After playing,
the stakes will be different, you know. So you don't it doesn't weigh on you the same way as, you know, quote unquote, your main game. And I want to piggyback off of a thing you mentioned earlier about, like, you know, get into different groups. Like my last point that I want to bring up for fighting games specifically, and again, this applies to a lot of things, but yeah, like watch lots of videos, watch lots of different people, because they're gonna have different approaches, and some may explain different concepts better than others, and especially you know, depending on how you learn, right? Kind of one of the things I picked up in university with, you know, people learn differently, right? Some people learn through just head down, labbing, nothing else, right? I will learn strictly everything mechanically about me, all the numbers, all that stuff. Yeah. And then some people learn through feel, right? Some people learn better through putting themselves into specific rough situations and then try to figure out and try to be creative to get out of those bad situations. Mm-hmm. So watch other people play. Again, more specifically to characters or whatever you play specifically, to get to understand things. And then also, like, you know, if there's a specific thing that a particular character does, like, that you have trouble against, watch videos on them and see why what they're doing is so good. And so then you can try to figure out if there's a weakness at all in there, kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
This is what I will tell you when it comes especially to fighting games or to anything. Watch the people who have actually done shit. So, like, in fighting games, Justin Wong is really good. It's a really good resource whenever he plays games. Mm-hmm. Smug, Punk, these are just, like, some of the guys that I'm just going to rattle off here, who have actually won shit and are actual good players, right? They're not just guys on the internet, which, I mean, you can be, but we'll get there. But guys who have actually won shit, you want to watch them. You want to watch the guys that they watch. So, like, for fighting games, J.M. Crofts is in with a lot of, like, the top level players for a good reason. He's smart. He knows what he's talking about. And then you want to watch people who watch them, right?
Yeah.
I say that because I watch a lot of those guys and I want people to watch my videos. So just know that, like, I'm watching them and I'm studying them. Mm-hmm. So, like, when I make something, you know, you can watch my videos selfishly. But no, but it is a good idea. And again, don't just watch the same person. Watch different people. Watch how they play your character. Watch how they play characters you have a problem with. See where they struggle, right? Because, you know, just going into this from your perspective, and that's the other important thing that I know we haven't even touched on, but play other characters, especially like if you've maxed out where you feel like you are with your main. Seeing it from a different perspective can open up so many different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like for me, like I played Ryu all the way up. I got to Diamond, right? I got to Diamond 2, got to Diamond 3. But then like I still go back and I'll still play like E Honda. I play my shitty Akuma, right?
Mm-hmm.
But because I play Akuma like Ryu, but it doesn't work because he's not Ryu, he's Akuma, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, approaching things from a different perspective can open up your eyes to how you would play with your main. So like for instance, the way people interact with Honda is so different from how they interact with Ryu. And so it allowed me to see kind of, well, if Honda's, you know, heavy punch can do this against this character, can Ryu's, right? So that's kind of a really cool concept, is that every character is different, but a lot of the things are, again, a lot of the skills are transferable, right? So you can kind of see things from a different perspective when you play a different character. And then even when you join a different character's Discord or you watch people play a different character and how they interact with, you know, the problem characters that you're having, or even your own character that might reveal some things about your character that you didn't realize, right? So I would just say expand your perspective and like don't stay in your bubble. Please, like, expand, go to events if you can. Do it for me. I haven't been to a fighting game tournament in years. Like, how long have I been working professionally? Like, it's basically been that long, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's basically been like a decade, dude, since I've been to like a fighting game tournament. I want to go back. Go expand your horizons. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's solid talk about fighting games. Again, that we kind of I wanted to keep that one a little bit broader because obviously we don't play the same fighting games all the time. And again, a lot of the concepts kind of do transfer for those a little bit more freely in comparison to some of the FPSs that I specifically, you know, kind of play through, you know. So next topic I've got here for my thing now, Rainbow Six Siege. Probably gonna be something that I'm gonna be able to speak on here.
I was gonna say again, basically, you could tell me whoever in the hell is in this game, and I'd believe you.
So another game that is hero shooter inspired, not really. It's like, so there's operators in this game, and they all have one major ability, right? Or one major gadget. That's kind of how they kind of classify them versus abilities in the other hero shooter style games, right? Hard thing to get into this game. Large cast of characters, a lot of maps, and a lot of ways to manipulate said map. You can blow holes in the floor, in the walls. Most characters have different guns. You don't play this like a COD or a Counter-Strike where a lot of people where every character can use the same weapon. So, you know, there's a little bit of like worrying about what's a good gun versus a bad gun, recoil. There's spray patterns in this game similar to like a Apex or a Counter-Strike. But it's closer to Apex where, like, you know, if you're ADSing, obviously you're a lot of it is just pulling down and kind of knowing when the gun jumps left and right. Versus Counter-Strike being a little bit more like it's a very specific spray pattern for every one of those guns. Again, gun skill is very important for this game. Get into an aim trainer. Spend a lot of time learning how to flick. It helps in this game a lot. Tracking is also very good in this game, same as Apex. One big thing that makes this game very, very difficult for people, especially early on, which is why I bounced off of it when I first started playing this game, is that headshots with basically every weapon but shotguns are one-shot kills. Pistols, rifles, through walls, through floors. If you get hit with a random stray bullet in the head, you die. That is it. Again, except for shotguns, because obviously, you know, it's a balancing thing. So I have hit gold, and I have not stayed in gold. I'm not great at this game. This game is very, very difficult to stay good at. You can get to like plat again, like with like raw aim. You know, I have plenty of friends who don't use any of the utility in this game and just just frag out, who have hit like platinum, even diamond. I'm more of like a game knowledge guy. Like, so like I will spend a lot of time exploring the maps, go into a very specific map. I will bring sledge or buck with a shotgun or a sledgehammer and break all the floors, all the walls, and try to create different lineups and learn different lineups that I can get shot from and learn how to like play within, you know, the confines of the maps kind of thing. Because again, this game is it is very unique mechanic of being able to reorganize or reconstruct the entire play area basically. So, you know, really try to think like, you know, pretty broadly if you're trying to like get to that next level of like game knowledge in this game. Again, like utility is a big wall in this game because all the operators, their gadgets all have, you know, very specific interactions of breaking reinforced walls, you know, stopping drones or stopping entry or stopping gadgets like, you know, like Jaeger's utility allows him to destroy all projectiles coming in, you know, like stun grenades, frag grenades themselves, you know, explosives, anything like that, basically from entering a room on a particular cooldown, right? So stuff like that. You have to learn all these little intricate interactions. There's a big wall to get in, like a barrier of entry to get really into this game. But you know, I get some of the highest experiences in this game in terms of like, I remember the moment it changed for me. I was on Bank, on one of the maps called Bank, and I was rappelling outside. I hung upside down on a wall, and I shoot through like 2 walls that were not reinforced. I kill one person behind there, and I had that moment of like, oh my god, this is the greatest game ever. You know, like just like that particular experience of being able to get a random wall bang on a person just because I was on a hunch. I'm like, someone's got to be traveling through this hallway. I just do a quick spray. One of the shots gets lucky and hits. I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing. So, you know, there's a lot of little things in this game that really makes it difficult for people early on to get into. But like once you get into the game, it's just like I was like starved. I was like, I need to learn everything about this game now. And big thing in this game that I really always want to tell people, when you learn to work with your team, when you die in this game, your game is not over. You can get on cameras still. You can get on cameras, you can get on drones. Information is key in this game. Don't just, if you die, don't just get on your phone and wait for the round to finish. Like you like, because, you know, 3D spatial audio is in this game. There are static cameras in the game. Players can add more cameras to the map. The attackers have little drones to scout out areas, right? So if you left your drone in a good spot, you can still give out information to people who are still alive. And sound, again, travels, or the way the sound is treated in this game, it is spatial. So if I'm on a drone, I'm dead, but I hear somebody coming through like yellow stairs on one of the maps. I'm like, hey, one person either coming up or coming down yellow stairs. If a person's in that area, they know what I'm talking about, you know? So there's like, your round's not over when you die. Not like when you play like a Counter-Strike or a Call of Duty search and destroy. Like you are still useful to the team if you're able to give information. Information is key in Rainbow Six Siege.
Are you telling me that this game turns into Among Us after you get eliminated?
A little bit.
In Among Us?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, man, like, because that was like the thing that annoys me to all hell when I was like trying to grind this game, was like I will always try to talk on microphones, right? I will give out call outs. Same with any other shooter, right? Give out call outs and give out information. But so many people that I'll play with, like, hey, can you either stop spamming microphone so I can actually hear what the hell's happening in the game? Or give me a ping an enemy for me if I'm like trying to plant the diffuser, right? Or, you know, it's a Counter-Strike in that way where it's like you're attacking 2 sites, you're planting either a diffuser or a bomb. And then it is now the roles essentially reversed, right? Now it's time for the defender to try to come back and take over the site again. So it's like, if I'm doing that and someone hears something on my left or my right or behind me or through a wall or whatever, it's like, hey, heads up, here's 2 enemies on the bottom floor. You're on the second floor. You've got time. Go ahead and put it down now. And then now I can hunker down and basically play the job of a defender in that same round. So, you know, like, again, I be helpful to your team as much as you possibly can, even if you die. Your game is not over technically until the round is actually done. But yeah, like that's kind of like a real thing here. Like I want to talk about Rainbow Six Siege, because again, like this game is kind of like a barrier to entry game for a lot of people. Like I brought a lot of friends into this game, and they were like, "This is so damn weird," right? Like because there's so much to learn. Versus like versus them coming from like Counter-Strike, where yes, there's also a lot to learn in Counter-Strike, but again, like lower level Counter-Strike, you can kind of just frag out, and there's a very specific aiming mechanic in Counter-Strike that doesn't transfer over to any other game, basically.
So you talk about barrier to entry. Did you have anything else?
Yeah, next game after that I had League of Legends.
Okay. I was gonna take it because there is a barrier to entry to that, but you talk about barrier to entry. What about card games?
Oh, God.
Trading card games.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Go for it, bro. All you.
So, I have obviously it's been well documented that I have been playing Yu-Gi-Oh again since the pandemic started. In one way or another, right? I got back into Yu-Gi-Oh, and you talk about a barrier to entry, my friends. Trading card games in the year of our Lord 2024 are in a really good place. I will tell you that a lot of trading card games, maybe besides Yu-Gi-Oh. Actually, Yu-Gi-Oh is probably in the worst place.
Lakan is in a fantastic spot right now. Magic the Gathering is kind of having a little bit of a renaissance, like away from Commander.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a
Vice
lot of
Schwartz is popping off right now too.
No, it's not.
Hey. There's a lot more people playing Vice Schwartz than you think.
No, I would say a lot of the big games that just came out, Lorcana, One Piece, Digimon, they're all kind of having really strong starts. And I think it's because people are getting disenfranchised with Yu-Gi-Oh, with Magic, with Pokemon because of the barrier to entry in those more established games, right?
Yeah.
So, for Yu-Gi-Oh, I came back to it from a place, obviously I grew up with it. We played it as kids.
Unga Bunga.
Right. Well, like everybody else kind of played it, right?
Yeah.
And I had a deck in mind that I wanted to play. Dinosaurs had just gotten a ton of support. So, like, I knew that I was coming back with a deck in mind that I wanted to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I had to learn mechanics. I had to learn what the hell a pendulum is. What is pendulum summoning? What is synchro summoning? What is link summon? What is Xyz, right? So I had to learn all the extra deck cards, right? Then I had to learn what all these extra deck cards did, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of them have very complex, as a game that evolves over time does, right? Then I had to learn what my cards do. And I had to learn my card combos. And then I had to learn how my deck interacts with other decks. And then what to do in a mirror match, right? What to do against certain cards that hard counter my deck, basically, right?
Yeah.
Cards that immediately banish, right? So, like, dinosaurs like to play in the graveyard. What happens when I don't have my graveyard available to me? What are the plays? So you talk about barrier to entry. And that's just playing on Master Duel, like playing simulators, right? And then I have to buy the fucking cards.
Yeah.
I spent $200 on that fucking deck just to have a physical deck. And then just for it to be at a point now where I'm missing cards still because they only got reprinted. They only got printed once.
Yeah.
So I have to either spend $30 for 2 fucking cards a piece to have a deck that's complete. Oh, by the way, the deck got just destroyed on the ban list because one of the core cards didn't get taken off the ban list like it is everywhere else in Miscellaneousaurus, because even though it's fucking bullshit that it's still at 1 copy, but every other deck is fine, right? So, all that being said, card games have a massive barrier to entry. And then once you actually get the cards, now you have to play and learn the game. Holy shit, man. It's insane.
Yeah, I look at card games to be almost in a similar world to like chess. Like there's so much history behind the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
no, that I see where you're going. I was like, wait, you just have to buy a fucking chessboard.
But in terms of like the amount of knowledge you need to be like genuinely good at that game is like insane. Like, sure, there's the occasional chess prodigy who just kind of picks up concepts very, very quickly, and then they start like just thinking about the game very differently. But like, to a young player, like, oh, that's thinking outside the box. But then you realize, oh no, this strategy has been around for like 200 years.
Exactly.
So it's like the barrier to entry in like trading card games is knowledge. You know what I mean? It's information. That's where the barrier to entry is in for like these specific types of games. Like Magic the Gathering, when I got into it, a friend built me a very simple deck with like one mechanic that made it a little bit over baby's first Magic the Gathering deck. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, well, this deck has a bunch of big guys. Okay, cool. And then also these big guys create little guys. I'm like, why do I want the little guys? Because they don't do any damage. But they're like, oh no, they eventually do damage if you if you can get the deck rolling and you can get things going for you. Like, got it. So now I have like 6 big guys to deal with, and then 100 tiny weenies. You know what I mean? Like that do like 1 damage, but there's only 20 health. They can only deal with so much. So you know what I mean? Like, so getting to that simple point is like, okay, cool. That's simplified enough for a new person to kind of come into, and I think that's a big benefit for like card games. Specifically where if you have a friend to explain to you how the game works, that is a game that like genuinely but it absolutely like the learning process flourishes when you have somebody not holding your hand but kind of being like a mentor to you. You know what I mean? Like that is a very big thing in trading card games specifically.
Relearning Yu-Gi-Oh really put the hypothesis that I gave you all to the test, because of, I consumed, luckily enough, I ended up finding a streamer named Decade, right? Mm-hmm. He runs Duel Links meta, he runs now Master Duel meta and Yu-Gi-Oh meta. So he's former, like, I think he's like a regional champion. Mm-hmm. Like, he's won some shit, right? And he's really dialed in. You talk about playing this game a lot, right? Mm-hmm. I'm gonna give you my hours just on Steam for both of these games. So for Duel Links, I'm at 347.8. For Master Duel, I'm at 274.5. And that's just on Steam. Primarily, I play Duel Links on mobile because the desktop client sucks. I don't know what happened. It's a glitchy mess. And then same thing with Master Duel. Like, I played on phone, I played on Switch, I played on PS4, right? I bounced around where I was playing this game for the most part, right? But now, primarily as a PC gamer, Master Race, right? That's kind of where I'm at. But you talk about playing, that's how much time I fucking played these games, right? Yeah. To get to this point now where I'm in, I was in Platinum 2, and then I got too nervous to keep playing because I didn't want to lose to get to Diamond, but I want to try to get to Diamond.
The rank anxiety kind of kicked in.
Right, exactly. And especially in Master Duel where the rankings reset every month and you go down back, so I'm back in gold once I fire this up again.
Yeah.
And I gotta play my way out of gold, and then I gotta play my way out of platinum, right? It's tough versus a game like, your traditional games that don't have seasons like Street Fighter where you have your numbers and they stay your numbers, right?
Yeah.
But God, man, like I'm telling you, like I had to basically learn everything from scratch. I studied high-level players. I watched high-level deck types, and I copied deck lists as best I could. But then I just play tested. I played and I played and I played a lot. Look, 500 hours across a couple of years, right, in these 2 games to get to where I'm at now, which is, not much further than where I started, but farther enough, right? Especially, digitally, physically it's tough because you just have to, the big barrier to entry is cost on a lot of these, and luck.
Yeah.
It's either cost because you buy singles, or it's luck when you buy packs, right? So you talk about a barrier to entry. Established card games are tough, but even now, Digimon's 4 years old. One Piece is almost One Piece TCG. I'm going to see when it came out. These games are now a little older, and if you're only playing meta, right, and you jump in, there might be cards that released a few years ago that you don't know about, because the only game that does rotations is Magic because it's been around for almost 40 years, right?
Yeah.
Cards can come back from the dead, right? Especially, and that's like the thing in Yu-Gi-Oh where, a card called Snatch Steal, you might have heard of Snatch Steal, right? Was banned 20 years ago, and now the game has finally caught up to these broken cards where you can play Snatch Steal again, which is basically you pay 1,000 life points and you steal an opponent's monster.
Yeah, I mean, but a big thing was I remember Monster Reborn being banned for forever.
Right. just special summoning one monster from the graveyard was broken for 20 years. And now you have access to it again. You have Raigeki, which destroys all your opponent's monsters. Non-targeting, by the way, which is a big thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! To understand. You talk about lingo in fighting games.
Terminology.
Card games have a ton of lingo.
Mechanics, yeah.
I don't know what half the shit in Magic is. Death touch, flying. What is it? Reach?
Yep.
Yeah. And then they come up with new ones every set, and now you got to learn what the new one does and how that interacts with other things, right? So if you have reach and death touch, right, you can death touch flying enemies, right, or whatever it is, right? Haste. What's the other one?
Haste, Undying, Shroud, Hexproof. That was the one that I came in around 2010. And so before that we had Shroud, which means this creature can't be targeted by spells, by you or the enemy, right?
Yep.
But then so it can't be targeted, right? But if you get a card like Day of Judgment, where it says destroy all creatures, it's not targeted, it's destroying that creature, right?
It's Dark Hole, right, exactly.
Because it's not targeting that specific creature. But then a thing came out around 2010, 2009, 2010, 2011 called Hexproof. It didn't even have a term when I first saw the card called Canopy Cover, where it said like spells can't be, Canopy Cover was an enchantment, like a creature enchantment, where it said like, this creature cannot be targeted by your opponent's spells. So that means I can buff the crap out of it, but it can't be targeted.
Right.
The spell can be targeted, but not the creature.
And then you have to learn card types in Magic, right? Like Magic, you have card types. You have what are permanents, right? What are lands? What are not equipments? What's the other thing?
Yeah,
artifacts.
Yeah, artifacts. Yeah,
creatures. And then you have artifacts that are sometimes creatures, but then they're not. And then you have what's the land ratio? What?
Lands are also creatures too.
Yeah.
So
holy shit.
A lot of these things have like an equivalent in Yu-Gi-Oh, but they still act very differently because the rules of the game are different.
Right. And it's not like, and the thing about Yu-Gi-Oh too is nothing's like Yu-Gi-Oh because everything else has a resource system. Yu-Gi-Oh's resources are the cards in your hand, and whatever your monsters can summon, and that's it. We don't have lands, we don't have energies. Digimon has like an energy mechanic where you can make summons up until the counter in the middle basically goes back to 1 on your opponent's side. It's basically kind of like a pendulum. I don't know if you've seen Digimon, but you basically have like an energy, and everything has a cost. So you typically start turns on 1, right? But then you have cards that can give you 3 memory, right? Memory is what it's called.
Okay.
If your opponent just raw plays a giant monster, sometimes you can have like 5 or 6 memory, giving you access to more plays, right? So everything kind of has a resource system, and understanding how the resource system works is imperative for most card games, but not Yu-Gi-Oh, because Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have one. So you can basically, as long as you have cards in your hand and you have things that you can do, the world is your oyster, pal, which is insane for a lot of newer players, right? So that barrier to entry is so daunting for a lot of like the older card games that I'll see people are hardcore playing One Piece, they're playing Digimon, they're playing Lorcana, and a lot of the thing too is like you have an attachment to Disney characters, right? You have an attachment to One Piece, you have an attachment to Digimon, right? So it makes it easier to play these newer games that don't have as much of a barrier to entry, and the games are usually cheaper, right? Because they're newer, they're not as established. God forbid you won't try to buy fucking Pokemon cards now. Yeah. Because of the collector market.
Yeah.
That shit, like, what's a barrier to entry? Like, if my son wants to play Pokemon cards, right? How much is that going to set me back? It's insane. So, like, you talk about a barrier to entry. To me, that was kind of the first thing that popped into my head, was like, holy shit, it's what I'm going through right now with card games. Is the card that I need to finish this fucking dinosaur deck that's now dead because of the ban list is only printed once.
Yeah.
So if I want it, I got to spend $60 to get the cards, right? If I really want to play it optimally, there's a rare extra deck monster that costs, let's see how much she costs now, or he. I don't know if it's a he or a she here. $85. So if I want SP Little Knight, I have to spend, as of today, $85 to get this card to make my deck optimal.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like it's not barrier to entry is huge in a lot of games. And I mean, card games do their best to try to mitigate things, but at the end of the day, it's all about money. So like they're not gonna make it too easy for you to get a lot of these high power cards, especially when they're currently like meta relevant.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's tough. And then God forbid you play a game like Magic that has sets, that has set rotation, where the core of your deck is about to go out of rotation. Guess you got to play something else or suffer. Yeah. Whatever, man. Or wait for fucking support.
Which is why people switched over to Commander, because that just makes all cards basically relevant again. I play because before it was like it's standard, right, for the current sets, and then it was like modern and like extended and modern. I think now they kind of essentially ruled both into modern now at this point, where it's just like everything going back to like a particular year is now legal. You know what I mean? There's still some cards that are illegal because of them being legitimately overpowered, but you know, there's a reason why like there's a little bit of difficulty right now in trying to get a lot of hardcore players to get back into, or non-hardcore players to get back into the standard rotation of cards. Because like, yeah, every 3 months you're just spending a crap ton of money to buy new cards again. So yeah, that's absolutely like a major barrier to entry, especially when it's like a physical barrier to entry in terms of like actually acquiring cards to play your decks physically in person in tournaments.
I mean, it's like I'm living it, but I like playing it. Like they're fun games.
Yeah, absolutely.
And luckily, I'm at a point in my life where like I can just buy shit if I need it, but it's not that easy for a lot of people, especially the people that I play with. It's tough to. Do you want to pay rent? Do you want to buy groceries, or do you want to have some leisure time, right?
Yeah.
And for a lot of cards, for a lot of card games, it's tough. So like that was kind of like the first thing for me. Like I said, like we said, barrier to entry. Like League of Legends is a really good point. We'll get into that, but for me, card games came up first, especially if you want to play them physically. Man, it's tough.
Yeah, in terms of like barrier to entry, because I mentioned it for League of Legends, and we'll probably get into that next. Rainbow Six Siege has that same kind of thing where again, there's just so much to learn. You know what I mean? Just to get into the game, because there's so many little things now that like minor interactions of between characters or operators or whatever. Right? There's just so much information you have to like try to sift through to figure out what the hell it is that's actually important for me to use. Mm-hmm. And then to actually get better at the game itself. And so I guess we'll pivot over here now to League of Legends, because I've mentioned the story offhand at one point, I think during one of the episodes, where you were the one who got me into League of Legends back in 2009, 2008 maybe.
Yeah. Sorry, because I played the original Dota on Warcraft 3, so I got into League of Legends and I was like, hey, you want to play this? Because it kind of seems up your alley. And then I fell off, because then that's kind of when I started playing more fighting games, because I got tired of people, dictating what I was going to play, and I got tired of people losing when I was doing well, but you stuck with it.
Yeah. So I played, I want to say like around the time, I want to say like Ari or Victor was new still. Around that time. So again, probably around 2008, 2009. And I played for about 10 years. Just over 10 years, I played the game as like my main game. I would occasionally pivot out to like when PUBG blew up or Fortnite blew up, but I would go back to League of Legends being like my comfort game. And that was a game that I grinded, and then I stopped, and then I grinded again, like, ranked, and then went back to playing casuals, and then went back to playing ranked. So League of Legends, barrier to entry, there's like over 160 characters now or some shit. So yeah, have fun learning all the champions, what they do. Everyone has 4 abilities, 1 or 2 passives, maybe even 3 sometimes. Extremely large pool of items and diverse build orders that you have to know, because you have to learn how to pivot your character builds if you're winning or losing a lane. And also how to remain useful to your team if you're behind, or how to push your lead if you're ahead to help the team. So early on, team comps are not super important, right? We kind of realize, like, if you're in iron or bronze, you start kind of understanding what a team comp is, right? But like really early on, it's just like, no, unga bunga, just kill the enemy and push your team across to the opposite side, destroy the nexus. It's really like kind of a shit show down there because no one really knows anything mechanically. No one really has an understanding of game flow and game sense of what phase of the game we're currently in, right, from early, mid to late game. Just violence just wins in the early game of that when you're really down in like the lower levels, right? And then eventually you learn what like team comps are again. Like in bronze, you start understanding why there's a meta, right?
Yep.
Silver, you'll start seeing a little bit more like mechanically, like a little bit more mechanically better players. Gold, even more mechanically better, and starting to really understand game flow and phases of the game. Plat, you can kind of grind your way to platinum just by playing the game and just like learning how to win your lane and then spreading the wealth. And then from that point on, it becomes actually like, how do I help the team? You know what I mean? It's more about team play from that point on. Of if I'm winning top lane, but my bot lane's losing, okay, swap out. I can kind of like stall a 1v2 at that point because I'm ahead, right? Or we start grouping together for objectives, right? Objective play starts becoming a thing for
here's a understanding, like especially when you're playing like jungle, which is something I never learned how to do.
Mm-hmm. And I was a jungle main, so
shame on me. But it's like here's a gank, right? Mm-hmm. I'm gonna gank, and again, terminology comes into it. What is a gank? What's a ward? What's good ward placement?
Roaming.
What are rolling? Right. Feeding. What does feeding mean? What is top lane? Top, bot, mid, jung, right?
There's just so much to try to understand early on that honestly is like, I just tell people whenever like I was getting people into League or like I was kind of like big brothering them in, it was like, don't worry about that stuff. Here's the simple stuff.
Right.
Take this and just follow me. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. Especially if I'm playing like a bot lane with like a new support or whatever, right?
Yeah, shit, man. I didn't realize it came out in 2009, 15 years ago.
Yeah, and it's still like arguably one of the biggest esports titles out there still.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I would say so.
Kind of the pinnacle right now of competitive gaming, right? In terms of like how big it is, like mm-hmm. It's like that, Dota 2, Counter-Strike.
Basically the same game but different.
Basically,
super different enough.
Very different. I did try playing Dota 2, and it was just, it's not my speed. I like how fast League is comparatively to Dota.
Right, and just the intricacies of difference with League and Dota. I love watching both games. Right.
Yeah.
I tried playing Dota, right? It's so hard, mm-hmm. dude. It is so much harder because now you have to learn a roster of, what is it now? You've probably over more than 60 champions, right? Mm-hmm. These guys were based off of the same Dota champion, right? From the original Dota, mm-hmm. but now the timeline has split them in completely different ways, right?
Yeah.
And now you have new characters that don't have like a League equivalent, right? So mm-hmm. you have to learn what they do. You have to learn their builds. Oh, you have to learn all the different item names now. But they do certain different things than the same item in League that's based off the original Dota item,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to learn the map. You have to learn how you interact with the map. It's almost
a completely different game. Like,
I can eat trees? What the fuck?
yeah. The way you can manipulate the map is different. Is like a major thing in Dota.
What do you mean deny?
Denying,
what's a denial?
Yeah, like one champion in League used to deny, and then they got rid of it because it was a mechanic that like only one character could do, and like it just didn't transfer to anything else in that game in League of Legends. So, like I guess this could be in this realm we can talk about like League and Dota in the same thing. Even though again we're gonna be more biased towards League of Legends, but. I mean, again, like there's so much there.
Holy shit, there's 125 if my math is right.
There you go. Yeah, I think
5. Oh shit.
And I think over 150 or 160 now for League of Legends.
Yeah, holy fucking shit.
So yeah, like try to understand try to understand all the different roles, what they do, what champions fall into those roles. Like, okay, this character can be built a bruiser or a tank. okay, cool. What is a tank build? Is it even effective on this character? You know what I mean?
Right. What are the tank items?
Yeah, what are the tank items that are good?
How do I tank? And then, the champion that you've known for years just got a rework. What's the rework?
Yeah, or like, oh hey, your main just got nerfed. Was it big?
Yeah.
Was it small? Oh, it's 0.3. It's like 0.3 health regen nerf. Is that big? I don't know. And then you realize, oh yeah, it matters a lot because now I can't stay in lane as long as I want to.
Right.
So stuff like that, and because these are live service games, the game is ever evolving, and the skill floor just constantly raises. Like I remember back in like season 2, when people would insec. Do you know who insec is?
No.
So Insec was a Pro League of Legends player. I believe it was Korean. So do you remember? Do you know the character Lee Sin, the blind monk?
Yes, I remember.
So Insec, like, it got named after him because he did this thing where he can place a ward. He would jump to the ward as Lee Sin and then use his ult, his kick, to knock a target into the team, like away from their team into away from the enemy team into their allies, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically one person's getting jumped basically, and I'm feeding that one person into the rest of the team. That was like a whoa, oh my god, mind-breaking play, holy shit. People in bronze do that now. You know what I mean? It's the skill floor is just like so high now in comparison to when I started the game, that like when I was playing, I could see low-level players doing stuff that was mechanically difficult like 3 years ago.
That was like the Daigo parry, right?
Yeah, so, exactly. Like now, basically anybody can do it.
Now everybody does it because everybody's been practicing it, and it's been in the lexicon for 20 years, right?
Yes.
Doing it live in the moment took a tremendous amount of skill, right? Just like how he, came up with this, nobody thought to do it. So to be able to do it at a high level consistently took a tremendous amount of skill. Now you have probably 1,000 thought pieces on how to do it. You have, people that practice it
and can actually do it in tournament now, versus before it was like, this is like a 1 in a million chance, no one could pull this off, that kind of thing before.
Exactly.
Now it's like, I can probably go to we can probably go to a local and probably see at least 2 go down.
Yeah, right. So like parrying, right, is not, because you've had 20 years to work on this. In same thing in League of Legends now, you've had, Lee Sin came out a couple of years after launch, right? So you've had now probably 10 years for this another word.
Tech.
Like this ability, this thing that you do in the game to permeate itself into normal play, right? And now probably other characters have similar abilities where they can interact with the ward in a similar fashion. So now, again, like it's just something that's built into the game. It's ingrained in the game now, versus something that was new, and right? That did take a tremendous amount of skill and knowledge and execution, right? Now, because it's been so normalized, you don't have to really, like, it's still impressive, but it's not as impressive as coming up with it, right?
Yes.
So like everybody can play Beethoven symphony, right? Like you can play a Beethoven song, right? But to be able to write that and not have it be in the lexicon for generations, right, took a tremendous amount of skill.
Yes. Like the sheer amount, like the sheer mechanical skill is so different now. If you watch like old League of Legends, like, World Championships from like 2010 to like this year, it's like watching like a bunch of like golds running it down right now. You know what I mean? In comparison, it's wild how different the game is.
Things change.
Yeah.
Meta games change. Players get better. Players get stronger. Even though you could probably still watch the same players that you're watching today years ago thriving at high levels back then, but like you said, the ceiling gets taller, the floor gets higher. It's just the natural progression of games. But now, watch players play 2XKL, right? The League of Legends fighting game. In any fighting game, right? Watching skills from, 10, 15 years ago, because you don't have that, that established knowledge base, games are going to look completely different in the future, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like to finish it off here for like League of Legends specifically, again, watch a fuck ton of instructional videos on specific game things, not just the characters. Like learn game flow, learn how minions work, know how targeting works.
Yep.
Learn how learn how to push a gold lead or come back from a gold lead. What can you offer to the team if you're behind or you're ahead? Learn how to develop a lead and take advantage of that gold lead by helping your team or carrying if possible. If you are that far ahead and you can carry, do it. But you have to learn when you have to step on the gas, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And like like it's a term you hear in like basketball, right? It's hero ball, right?
Yeah.
Like it's learn how to play as a team, or like provide and play as a team, versus being the hero, being the guy. So you have to like learn when that has to happen. Like there are plenty of games where like my AD carry would get just dumpstered on, right? But I'm playing a tank, and I'm like, just wait long enough, I'll be insanely useful. You know what I mean? We just stall it out, and then sure, if you die, they can't kill me anymore because I'm also invincible at this point. So it's a lot of knowing how to take advantage of specifically the strength of your character, and of course certain characters can carry, certain characters it's harder to carry with certain characters. Obviously, your game plan is going to be different from every person on from that point. But there's a lot of variables. That's kind of again your complaint about playing team games like this, right? Where you can be doing well and then your team just shits the bed. But in a game like this where like I like playing team games, I like being part of a team, even though funny enough, right? I played mostly solo sports growing up, but I like the team dynamic. I like being able to put together, put forth something to help the team win. And I think this is League of Legends, for playing it for like 10 years, was the game that changed my mindset on a lot of games, where it's like, sure, I'll be upset if I lose, but it's also not the end of the world. You know what I mean? It's like every loss is something for me to learn from. That's kind of like the League is the game that kind of put that into perspective for me.
The tough thing about League and getting better at MOBAs is that the time commitment to these games is extraordinary.
Long. Yeah, we're talking like a minimum of matches is 15 minutes, and that's if you surrender at 15. And also, if you do that, you don't really learn anything. You know what I mean? Because that's still mostly in the early game. But but yeah, again, there's 3 different phases of the game. There's early, the mid, and the late game phase, right? Unfortunately, for like same thing for League, and even harder because it is a 5-person team where a million things can go wrong, or go right for that matter. Play a lot, get reps in, learn to adapt. Don't try to pigeon your holes. Like, oh, this is the best build. It's like it's the best build if you're doing okay or winning. You know what I mean? If you're losing, you should probably pivot into more cost-effective items so that you can help your team out as early as possible.
And if you're playing knowing what champions do what, is that still a thing where you have like attack damage and ability power?
Yep.
Is that still?
Yep.
Yeah. So like, do you have to stack ability resistances?
If their mage is popping off and their ADC is useless, I'm ignoring armor. I'm building magic resist to deal with their magic carry, and vice versa, and the opposite way as well too, right? Vice versa. And also a big thing with the game, I remember you told me this, because it's just how the game is. You're going to die a lot. Deaths are part of the game. Yeah. So you don't worry about like if you died 3 times in a game. Like no, there's multiple deaths in the game. Don't worry about your KD ratio. I mean, don't die, don't feed, but don't worry about dying. You're going to lose a lot, but once you get over that first hurdle of like actually trying to improve yourself as a player, that's when the game is like insanely high in terms of payoff. Like League is probably like one of the games, along with like Siege, of me having like the highest highs and the lowest lows of my experiences.
Yeah, man. It's tough, but if you want it, you'll fight through it. If you don't want it, then play something else. You know what I mean? Like there's 1,000 other games, if not more, that you could dedicate all this time to. Like, but if you want to play League, like you're gonna have to put the time in, just like everything else, right?
Yeah. And it's just, again, that barrier to entry is daunting, especially for younger players and newer players. But there's ways to chip away at it. There absolutely is. I've been away for like 4 years now at this point. I stopped playing basically as the pandemic started.
Right.
I was basically burnt out on it. So I'm sure if I go back now, I'm gonna know how to play like my characters well. But
then
like,
you're gonna see like the new character that came out 2 weeks ago, and you're gonna be like, "Who
what
the
do
hell are
they
you? What do you do?
Why do they do the things they do? Exactly. It's gonna be
Yep.
it's gonna be freaky, but I'm sure I can probably go in and like hold my own. I'm not gonna be carrying anytime soon. I'll be pretty damn sure of that. But you know, I think like mechanically or like game knowledge wise, at least where I left off, probably lands me back now in like silver. You know what I mean? Like I'd probably drop like a division or two from where I was when I was actually actively playing the game.
Oh yeah, no, I would be. It would take a while for me to figure out which of my characters are actually good. It would take me a while to get the muscle memory back. It would take me a while to it would take me a while to get back up to speed, but I think I could. But I just don't have the time. I don't really, you know what I mean? I if I had like the hyperbolic time chamber, I could probably do it, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, again, that's kind of why I started moving away from League and from. At the time, BRs were very fast, right?
Right.
Battle royales were like 15, 20 minutes. The game's actually over. You know what I mean? Like versus like 15, 20 minutes games. Like the game's over, but we surrendered. You know what I mean? It's like it's not actually over, but we're just like we're over it and we're just gonna move along.
Right.
So there's that. I can you can get in a lot of reps in playing BRs early on at the time.
The other thing you end up learning with League and Dota, especially like the MOBAs with voice chat, is like how to interact with people. And deal with certain types of personalities when you have like difficult individuals to work with, right?
Slash mute all, baby. That's especially when I was playing League. Seriously, just mute the team, even if you're they could be nice people. I will just mute, and if I notice that I'm getting helpful pings, I'll unmute the team. You know what I mean? And eventually when I got to a certain point where I kind of just scabbed over, unfortunately, I was like, I will leave everybody unmuted, and if I see a person start tilting real hard, real early, mute that one person, and then hopefully the other three will cooperate with me.
Right.
That's you have to League is like a game of like perseverance of like we will push through. Because League is like a tide, you know what I mean? There's like gonna be a high point, there's gonna be a low point, even in the early part of the game. Like you have to learn how to climb out of those little ditches you kind of fall into early on.
Especially if you're solo queuing.
Yeah.
But it's also difficult when you're playing, especially when you're playing with friends, and it's like somebody's the weak link, and this is your friend, and you have to be like, hey, listen.
Yeah, I have some friends who definitely were. So they play like 80 carry, right? Which is like
right.
They want to be the star of the show.
A very difficult position to play.
Mechanically difficult, but when they're rolling, they're the star of the show. You know what I mean? The whole team plays around them, or the AP carries, right? And I play fucking jungler or like top lane tanks. So basically, I'm the whipping boy of the team, basically. Right. So it's like if anything goes wrong, it's my fault. And then I remember like one time my AD carry was getting dumpstered. Just like he was full tilted. Just like he was like, I'm over this game, surrender 15, this game's over. I'm like, I'm on a fucking roll right now, dude. Like I am like 3 levels ahead of my enemy. You know what I mean? Like I've got like 2 full pieces of like equipment already built. It's like we can do this. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. Yeah, and I was like, just use. He was playing Ashe, the Frost Archer. Yeah. Like he has one piece of utility, a giant ice arrow that stuns the first person it hits. I was like, just use that on anybody, and I will go in there and just face smash them to death. And then I will come back to try to peel for you and keep you alive as long as I can. He didn't last long anyway. He would still just get murdered because he was on tilt, so you couldn't do anything about it. We come back from like a 10,000 gold deficit to win that match. And I was like, yo, man, like I told you, like, just relax. There's a way to be helpful. You know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of what I mentioned before of like playing like Apex or like specifically team games. Like even if you're doing bad, there's always a way for you to be helpful in some way, shape, or form. Ward aggressively. Get our vision pushing back towards their side. You know what I mean? Anything. Just try to be helpful. Don't ever count yourself fully out. Are there games that are ever fully lost? Yeah, plenty, of course. But like it's about the mindset of being like, we can make the anime comeback. You know what I mean? Like this is like League is the game of the anime comeback. Like I like as like stereotypical as that may sound, it really is, and like it is about like coming together as a team, as a unit, to like rally around the one person, or at least one, two, or three people who are doing well, and executing on a game plan. That's again, that's the reason why, like I said before, like League is one of the games that gave me the highest highs and like the lowest lows, because like obviously you win, especially with your group of friends, you win together, you lose together. Sure, there may be like a weak link somewhere, but like it's about the succeeding when all of you are playing, like when you all come together and make something happen, feels amazing.
It does. It is pretty cool, especially when like the people you're doing it with. It's really cool. But I don't know. It got to be too much for me, and then like the time commitments got to be too much. But I still like the games. I still like both of them. I still watch the like the esports cup and like high level tournaments of both games. I like having them on in the background.
It also helps that they're very easy to understand.
Yeah.
As long as you've like have like a basic understanding of how the game works. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of like, I can show League to like a newbie. Like I can bring them to like watch it at like when I went to go watch it at Madison Square Garden. I can bring somebody who doesn't know how the game works, and they could probably get a pretty quick understanding of it. You know what I mean? It's like it's like almost, it is kind of like almost like watching sports with a person who's not a sports fan. Even if they don't understand the sport, they can, by the end of it, they probably have a basic idea of how things work. You know what I mean? And then they can cheer along. Exactly. And got to be in the experience. But yeah, like I got one more, but I don't know if you're running on time here, so we can start wrapping up here if you want.
What is it?
Counter-Strike.
Oh, all right. I mean, you can just go off. I have a phone call at 12:30, so like.
I mean, this is just quick, so I'll just top it off here.
That's fine.
So Counter-Strike, the only reason why I wanted to put this on here is because it's not like every other first-person shooter, because mechanically it's very, very different. So Counter-Strike is like another OG esports title, right?
Yeah.
Years of history, kind of has the barrier to entry in terms of like knowledge, but at its core gameplay, it is put your reticle on the opponent's head and murder them before they murder you. That is kind of really, it's click heads, right? So the game punishes run and gun gameplay. It's not like a COD or Apex or a Siege where you can ADS and then the bullets go exactly where your reticle is aimed. You have to stop to fire your gun at max accuracy.
I do remember that being a thing that you guys would talk about. Which
is so different from everything else, right? The only other games that really do it like that is like Valorant, right? Which is, people say it's a clone, but it is a different game in its own right. And then I played Shroud's game that he's helping develop called Spectre Divide, which has similar-ish mechanics to it, but also has a splash of that arcade aim down sight shooter. But very tactically, it's very similar to Counter-Strike or Valorant. Aim, like raw aim and crosshair placement is key early on. You want to break away from the habits of playing games like Call of Duty, Halo, Apex, Battlefield, right? Where you want to keep your crosshair at head level at all times. Obviously, map knowledge helps, but for the most part, it's just keep the crosshair in the center of your screen, near head level, so that way you're only making minor adjustments to actually make your first shot count. You have to learn recoil patterns. That is another thing that is like a mechanical barrier to entry. You have to learn how to manage recoil, because the way recoil works in Counter-Strike is also different from other games, where essentially the reticle and the camera jump, not just the reticle on screen. So it's a very different feeling first-person shooter in comparison to the other games. This is a game where you're labbing in a shooting game. It's kind of like, it's boring, but you are going to get into an aim trainer, and you will learn how to flick. You will learn how to reset to neutral, and flick to a target, and come back, and flick, and come back, and flick, and come back, and also learn how to move, where like you're gonna walk left, and then let go of A and press D so you can stop on a dime, and then fire your first shot and make sure that first shot actually hits on target. It's a lot of like small, like training for Counter-Strike to me was close to like playing like a fighting game, where it's me having to break down a lot of more complex shit into smaller little bite-sized pieces for me to understand. And the one thing that helped me for this one was I had a friend bring me into Wingman, which is 2v2s on like smaller versions of like the main maps, and him basically telling me, okay, here's when we're pushing, here's where we're going, here's when we're expect somebody here kind of thing, and then hopefully and he's like, okay, hopefully your aim is good, you know what I mean? It's like, hopefully my shots go exactly where I want them to, and I get out of my bad habits of playing other first-person shooters. The big difference in this game versus the other shooters is the economy in this game. So you gain money on kills with weapons, right? And certain weapons give you more money, certain weapons give you less money, and also if you lose a round, you also gain money. And there's like a lose streak bonus and like a win streak bonus, and the lose streak bonus is like kind of like a comeback mechanic, kind of, because it gives you more money as you lose. And then it'll still cap out, right? It's like learning when to spend money for everyone to have full armor and headgear and the best gun as possible, right? For counter terrorists, it'll be you'll be rocking your M4 or your M4 silenced and helmets, right? And then certain times you won't even buy the helmet because the enemy team is gonna have AKs, which are one-shot headshots even with helmets.
Okay.
So, you know what I mean? So it's like you're understanding how each individual player has their own money, but your money is also the team's money. Because, you know, I have to be able to buy somebody a gun so they can buy themselves a helmet on like rounds that we have the advantage on, and the enemy team is on submachine guns, which don't have one-shot headshot weapons. You know what I mean?
That is an interesting caveat, right? About buying things for your teammates. That is interesting.
It's a very deep rabbit hole. It's very complex, and I remember having when I tried playing Counter-Strike Go at the time with my friends. That was Counter-Strike 2, which I have barely touched because, from my understanding, my friends have also kind of not been great on it right so far. Once Counter-Strike 2, I think, kind of fixes shit, they'll probably hop back into it. I was a Counter-Strike Source player and a 1.6. And Source was really easy in comparison to Counter-Strike Go. So when I went back to CSGO, after taking like a long break from Counter-Strike Source, I was very bad at the game. And I had to like relearn it basically, while everyone had basically not stopped playing the game.
Exactly.
And I'm playing against aim gods in the lowest levels possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had to relearn mechanically how the game works, what weapons to do, what rounds to spend money and save money, and so on and so forth. And you know that was like the first game I've ever played where I've legitimately felt like, oh, I'm holding the team back. You know what I mean? Which is also a reason why I didn't play it for a while, coming back into CS:GO. But like once I played the smaller version again, Wingman 2v2s. Where, you know, with a friend who was like, okay, you're getting back into this and you're pretty rusty, I got you. It's fine. You know what I mean? Like, it also helps to have like a mentor type of thing to help you learn the game, or like at least guide you in the right direction on where to practice and where to learn. That's when I started being able to like, okay, I understand how the game works at a very basic level, and now I can play the game without being a true hindrance to my team. You know what I mean? Like, and same thing happened with Valorant, where I have plenty of friends who again are aim gods. They're disgustingly good at aiming. Just they know how to click heads. I understood the basic idea of the economy in Valorant, same because Valorant has a very similar concept where you know gain money on kill, so on and so forth, buy your abilities, buy your utility, buy your guns, stuff like that. So like that, luckily that transferred to one other game. Trying to jump into CS for the first time, very rough if you have not come from a PC shooter aspect, because especially if you're playing on like there's really no equivalent to it in terms of it like on console. No, they're getting it in Valorant on console soon, but it's still different. You know what I mean? It's like versus think about like Halo, COD, Apex, Battlefield. In those games you're always running and gunning, right? That's kind of the name of the game in those games. Like you're always moving, you're kind of always trying to abuse some sort of movement tech. Not really in Valorant or in CS or Counter-Strike. You know what I mean? Like the whole point of that game is mechanically is stop yourself from doing all the shit you were doing in the other first-person shooters. So not as in depth as the other one, but like again, it was like one of those games that I really wanted to talk about, because when I finally did get back into it, it was like a world of difference for me to like actually understand and actually enjoy the game.
No, understood completely. No, I'm sure people appreciate it because I'm sure people come from that background too. Yeah,
and Counter-Strike again is also a long-running esports title, right? There's so much history in that game, so it kind of holds true that it's gonna be a game that has the staying power after all these years, and like, you know, it is like a barrier to entry game as well too, in terms of like information and raw mechanical skill. You know what I mean? It is like very similar in terms of like fighting games. Like mechanical skill and information is like there's a lot to learn, but once you get into it, you're in. You know what I mean? Like I have friends who only play Counter-Strike.
Yep.
You know, after how many years? But yeah, I think that's all that I've got. I don't know if you want to touch on anything else.
No, I thought that was a pretty good discussion. I thought we had a good go, a good flow there with a lot of our personal experiences there. It's tough. I mean, especially now as esports becomes a thing, it's going to be more and more difficult for people to really dig into games at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
Because now there's stakes and money attached to a lot of these things, and as a new generation wants to come in and get a part of this esports bucket, like it's going to be tough. So I really, I think it's a good trip down memory lane for us, and I think it's a good opportunity for people to, really see into our minds on how we approach multiplayer games. Yeah,
and I think we've got some tips in here that people can take to anything that they play, even if again we're not like we may not be a pro at whatever game we're talking about. We know what it takes to get out of at least some divisions in the early, mid to like high level gameplay. You know what I mean? Like we know what it is to grind it out and get good at a wide variety of games.
Yeah, for sure. If you made it this far, again, thanks so much for listening. Please consider subscribing. Give us a follow on social media, Instagram, Twitter. Stay tuned for whatever else we have coming up, and let us know kind of what your thoughts are on multiplayer games. What are you playing, and what have you played in the past, and how has your experience impacted sort of the way that you approach multiplayer games?
Yeah, so we'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care. Just be a bro. Show me your penis.
Jesus Christ.